The Dearborn Independent, October 8, 1921, number 50. Mr. Ford's page. Success in an evil program is the harbinger of collapse. The bold course of evil propaganda, with its brilliant achievements, is a cause for rejoicing, not for despair, because the more hectic the popularity, the more sure and swift the fall. Never fear the rise of insincerity, selfishness, or deception to what seems to be success. Never grow sour because the false and unjust rise to power. It is the only way in which they can be destroyed. Success is death in a wrong cause. Even in a good cause, success may indicate a short-time program. Success is always the epitaph of something, but nowhere is the meaning of it more hopeful than when the wrong succeeds. That is sign of the end. There never was a time when propaganda against the truth was so brilliant and efficient, and by that token, there never was a time when the truth had a better opportunity. The evil that is about to disappear flares up in a burst of glory just before its collapse. The worst delusion of all is its delusion of success. Between ripeness and decay, the line is too fine to be seen. Look at the glory of German imperialism in years preceding 1914. It was but the early brilliance of a conflagration that reduced it to ashes. Look at the all-powerfulness of the liquor barons during the 10 years previous to the People's Revolt. Our governments were made at the bars of saloons, and our national policies dictated by a whiskey ring. No political party ever achieved such power as did the liquor barons. But that very power was already the beginning of the end. Baseball itself was a summer fever. In peacetime, it became a sort of madness. It ruled the leisure of the country. But that flare of popularity was but the signal of a change. Success is dangerous because it is only on short-time plans that you can see success. And when you see it, you may know that the end has come. If it comes in a good cause, you may know that the cause is about to be swallowed up in another or greater. But if success comes in a bad cause, that is, a cause that trivializes, misleads, corrupts, or exploits the people, then you may accept the success as a harbinger of collapse. This is a principle to be firmly grasped by those who are amazed at the bold course which the propaganda of untruth takes in the world today. It is really a cause for rejoicing and not despair. The higher their balloon goes, the sooner will it burst. If you are to fear any propaganda, fear that which has existed for years and decades and centuries without success. Fear that which has never won the brilliant and mighty to its cause. Fear that which exists in the humility and tenacity of truth. Fear that which is cursed with unpopularity, so that modern butterfly men and women avoid it. For that is the propaganda that is linked with truth, and it never succeeds, because its end is too great to be fulfilled in that trifling temporary thing which men call success. The thing that is always living without succeeding is the thing to fear. That which can live without success has its rootage in eternity. Only that which is soon to disappear must have immediate success. This is not a matter of faith, but of knowledge. All knowledge begins in faith, but faith that does not settle down into sure knowledge to make room for deeper digging and higher soaring faith is not performing the function of faith. Faith is first an inner sense of the way the world works, just as the inventor is led by an inner sense to do things that were never done before. But his inner sense does not lead him the second time. His faith has crystallized into knowledge, and his action the second time is dictated by knowledge. Faith begins in hope, and hope, when it is true, ripens into belief. And belief, when it matures, is knowledge, and knowledge is power. They are all developments along the one line, and they never develop to their highest except in a spiritual atmosphere, that is, the atmosphere of ideas from the good and ideals toward the good, name it how you will. This old world, if we could see it essentially, is a field of contending forces, the forces of light and the forces of darkness. Incarnate in the bodies of men or in institutions, they are sometimes mixed in great confusion and are hard to identify. But the insight which comes by faith gives us even a surer touch in these matters. Men whose intentions are founded in simplicity and goodwill have inner sense by which they know the quality of a man or a movement, whether it be good or evil. The hardest man to deceive in all the world is a good man, not because he is smarter and shrewder than the other, but because faith is antiseptic and protective. He knows in a different way than the wise man of the world knows. You see the world then for what it is, a battlefield between contending forces. And if you pay attention to the appearances of things, you begin to think that the evil forces have it all their own way and are bound to win. Have they not wealth on their side? Have they not wisdom, polish, shrewdness? Have they not the suave, refined, comfortable people? Have they not convention and respectability? Yes, and so has every cause that fell. Such things are the twilights of the dying. What you see with the eye is not the truth. It is what you see through the eye, using the faculty of faith within. And you see then that brilliance as the autumn is, it is the time of stripping bare. The propagandists of false things have their day. Their work is skillfully done. All mechanical, financial, and political forces are at their service. With their work they seem to cover the earth, and men take note of the flood of matter which they pour upon a patient humanity. Yet with every planting a worm is planted, and when the plant grows and is about to fulfill the highest hopes, lo, it withers and decays. At the heart of every propaganda of falsehood there are fatal worms: insincerity, untruth, supreme selfishness. These kill whatever harbors them, kills outright after bringing a simulated fever of success. It is the law of the world. In the hopeful archives of the truth there is a saying that it is always darkest just before dawn. In the experience of organized, aggressive, and self-confident evil, the saying is reversed. It is always brightest just before nightfall. That is not hope, but knowledge. It is so, not it may be so. The last thing we have to fear is successful evil. The louder its songs of triumph roar, the oftener its glass of celebration is quaffed, the more swiftly is it fulfilling its doom. The feast of Belshazzar is always being repeated. Success is death when it comes in a wrong cause. Brilliancy of propaganda is the hectic flush of a fatal fever when exercised in a wrong cause. Even that so-called popularity, the temporary tickling of the people's ear, is merely the preparation of the people for a terrific rebound in furious indignation against imposture. We are now in a time when the inconvenience of previous impostures is being severely felt by the rulers of the old scheme of things. There was a time when words did duty for things. Words, words, words. How sick the people became of words during the period when we won the war and lost the peace. Words, words, words. High, cathedral-like words, soft, promissory words, words of wide visionary range. They soothed the people because they were at least a recognition in vocal sound of what was silent in the people's hearts. But these words were excuses, not seeds. They were meant to satisfy the people with less than they asked. Thence has arisen a great distrust of words. At a time when it would be most convenient for the rulers of the old order of things to pass words at their old-time value, they find a distrust of words everywhere. The exchange value is very low. The people preferred deeds. Words had great success several years ago, but it was another case where success was death, because the words were employed to deceive. A brilliant game, a successful game, but it is dead. When you push your evil game to the very apex of achievement, be sure of this: the game is over.